This is Loch Fiscally, one of my favourite places near where I live in Scotland. Today I've got a barbecue going, a cup of tea, and I'm with my best friend Malcolm, who also happens to be my husband. We're out here filming a video about something I care about deeply. How to help good people who are struggling overcome the stuff that's keeping us from doing what we're here to do and actually enjoy the process.
If you feel like you're carrying too much, trying to hold it all together, when all you really want to do is something that matters, it's not because you're doing things wrong, it's because your basic needs aren't being met. And no amount of positive thinking, mindset reframing, or vision boards can change that. Because that's a myth I believe we're being sold. And it's keeping us from making the changes that would actually work to make our lives so much better. So if you're anything like me, you often wake up tired and feeling like life is so much harder than it should be. You've got ideas, hopes, maybe even a sense of mission, but instead of actually doing that, you just feel staggeringly depleted. The reason for that is that you're running on empty in a world that rarely gives people what they need, because most of us don't even know what those needs really are. Instead, we're told over and over again, just change your mindset, practice gratitude, raise your vibration, visualize abundance. And when that doesn't work, then we're told to hustle, grind, get up earlier, and work harder. But if positive thinking could pay the bills or heal chronic illness, no one would be struggling. And if hard work guaranteed safety and success, carers and teachers would be millionaires. These ideas don't work, but they sell, and not just because someone's making money. A lot of people pushing this stuff on Instagram and coaching programs in spiritual spaces, they really want to believe it. Because if you can fix your whole life with affirmations and daily yoga, then you don't have to face the much scarier truth. That the reason so many of us are drowning isn't because we're failing. It's because we're trying to build lives inside a machine that's designed to drain us. And that's a terrifying thought. And it's why so many people, including me for a long time, turned to mindset tricks instead. It made me feel safer. But we can't fix this by thinking differently. We have to start building differently. And that's exactly what the positivity industrial complex keeps us from doing. It keeps us looping in self-blame and magical thinking because it's easier to sell hope than it is to change the world. First it was the church, then feudalism, then capitalism, and now it's spiritual influencers selling you alignment while sitting on inherited wealth. But the message hasn't changed. If you're still suffering, it must be your fault. And I am so done with that. Because you know what? You're not struggling because you're not grateful enough, not spiritual enough, or not working hard enough. You're struggling because your basic needs aren't being met. And that's not your fault. It's the system. So what do you actually need to thrive, and how do we begin to claim it? I've grouped basic needs into 9 areas. And first I want to name something that underlies all of them. It's safety and security. Not just physical safety, though that's part of it, but the kind of safety where your nervous system can stop bracing, where you're not constantly scanning for danger, whether that's another bill, another health flare, another moment of rejection or collapse. Most of us don't realize how deeply we've adapted to feeling unsafe. And that's not our fault. It's a survival strategy. We live in a world that withholds safety, unless you're lucky enough to have money, status, and support. So while I'm going to talk about 9 basic needs, just know this: safety and security are the thread running through all of them. So let's start with the first basic need: enough money. Not millions, but enough to relax. Enough to cover your needs without a constant gnawing worry. You can take a break pick up a hobby just because you love it, and feel like you have a secure future without feeling like you're one bad month away from disaster. Number 2, a healthy body. Food that doesn't just keep you alive, but fills you with energy and pleasure. In fact, I think I have a cup of tea coming. Here we go. Ah, lovely. Okay. Sleep's also really key. Sleep that lets you wake up feeling whole. Movement that feels like freedom and not punishment. A body that lets you live. Number 3, a steady, clear mind. You can think clearly, focus, and feel at home in your own mind. No more waking up overwhelmed. No more feeling like the past has a grip on you, keeping you stuck in patterns you don't know how to break. There's space for peace, for creativity, for knowing deep down that you are safe now and the future is yours to shape. Number 4, real friends and community. People who see you, who get you, who stand beside you. Not just acquaintances, but true connection. The kind of people that means you never have to carry everything alone. The kind that reminds you that you matter just as you are, and who also inspire you because they're so amazing. Number 5, the freedom to be yourself. A life where you don't have to contort yourself to fit in. No faking, no shrinking, no forcing yourself into a shape that isn't yours. You get to be fully, unapologetically you. And you're not just accepted, you're valued. Number 6, meaning and purpose. You have a reason to get up in the morning, not just getting through the day. You know what you're working toward, and it matters to you and to the world. You're not just existing, you're creating something that feels real and right. Number 7, real joy. Moments of laughter that take you by surprise. Deep belly joy. Like that, when things go wrong, just when you're trying to film something really important. Life isn't just about enduring. It's about having things that light you up. Number 8, connection to nature. You feel part of something bigger. Not in an abstract way, but in a real physical way. The warmth of the sun on your skin, the steady presence of the trees, the vastness of the sea or the stars overhead. These remind you that you belong here, that you have a right to exist, not because of what you achieve or how hard you work, but simply because you're alive. Nature doesn't ask you to prove yourself. It just welcomes you as you are. Number 9, spirituality. Spirituality is often included as a basic need, but I'll be honest, this one has been difficult for me. I've spent years trying to have a spiritual connection. It would make my life so much easier if I did. I've meditated for years, I've taken psychic development classes, and I've had moments where I've felt something. I even resonate with the idea of a loving universe. But if I'm being honest, that hasn't been my lived experience. The universe has not felt very loving to me or to most of humanity. And I have a real problem with the idea that my feeling a lack of support from the universe is somehow my fault, that I haven't meditated enough or manifested right, or insert whatever particular belief is in fashion at the moment. Because I've tried a lot. It's just never led to anything, and I'm at a point where I've stopped trying. I'm open to the idea that there's a benevolent higher force, but if it is there, I don't find its version of love and caretaking to be remotely good enough. The universe has been like a bad boyfriend. All promise, no follow through. But I don't reject the fact that other people do have profound spiritual connections. whether it's with a God, their guides, or a loving universe. I believe those experiences are real for them. They just haven't been for me. But if spirituality is just about believing in a higher power, then I don't think I have it. If it's about something deeper, about meaning, connection, a sense of the sacred, then maybe I do. Because I believe in this planet. I believe in all life. And I believe in our responsibility to make things better. If I have a spirituality, it's rooted in this world, in action, in care, in doing what I can to reduce suffering, because nothing else is guaranteed. Lots of cars going by today. Just when you're saying something really deep. Anyway, I know it's a lot, but if you're still here, I'm really glad, because this stuff matters. So, these are the basic needs as I see them. You might define them a little differently or group them in a different way. But however we frame it, one thing is clear. Most of us aren't even close to having all those needs met. So I mentioned in my last video that most people who feel called to make the world better are trapped in one or more of these 4 struggles: chronic illness, unhealed trauma, financial instability, or isolation and loneliness. And if you think about your life, which one feels like the biggest weight on you right now? Maybe one stands out, or maybe all of them do. And as I said before, these struggles don't just happen. They're not random. They exist because our basic needs aren't being met. And here's the thing, none of this is inevitable. Every single one of these problems could be solved, not in some distant utopian future, but right now, today. We already have enough resources. The problem isn't lack, it's hoarding, and we can do something about that. So if I had the money, I'd give everyone watching this enough money to live reasonably well. This isn't a fantasy either. It's called universal basic income. People are given a guaranteed minimum amount of money that covers all their needs. This concept has been tested all over the world, from California to Germany to Kenya, and it works. When people have enough, they stop struggling to survive. They get healthier, they build things, they give back. When I was at my lowest with chronic fatigue, I worked out that to fully rescue me and my family, I would need about 60,000 pounds or $100,000. 60,000 pounds sounds like a lot, until you compare it to a CEO's bonus or how much a sports star makes. It's a tiny fraction of a billionaire's wealth. But what you'll often hear is that suggestions like universal basic income are impossible. So I'll refer you to Lynn Twist, who's a global fundraiser and activist who spent decades working with both the poorest communities and the ultra-wealthy. She's worked alongside world leaders, including the Dalai Lama. And after seeing it all firsthand, she says the biggest things we're told about money are simply not true. She says we've been brainwashed to believe 3 huge lies about money. Number 1, there's not enough for everyone. Number 2, more is always better. Number 3, that's just the way it is. These myths keep people stuck in struggle while wealth remains concentrated at the top. And it doesn't even make the rich happy. But luckily, we're starting to see more and more people wake up to this. Take actor Michael Sheen, for example. He's just paid off £1 million in debt for 900 people in Wales. He bought their debt so he could cancel it. And here's what he had to say about it. Most people don't take out loans to splurge on holidays. They take them out to pay for essentials like rent, food, a kid's clothing. They're hardworking people doing everything right, forced into debt just to survive, and then punished with the highest interest rates for being poor. Sheen is calling that out. He didn't do it as charity. He did it to expose how the system keeps people trapped. He calls himself a not-for-profit actor, And as he says, people don't need handouts. They just need the system to stop exploiting them. I feel the same way. I'm a not-for-profit evolutionary, a term for someone who is highly sensitive, a deep thinker, and driven to make the world better. I want to take anything I earn above my basic needs and put it into helping people get out of what's grinding them down. Because when people's basic needs are met, they thrive. And when they thrive, they start changing the world. And everyone in our world needs that. Alas, universal basic income isn't here for most of us yet. So how do we meet our basic needs when we're already barely hanging on? I believe the only way to change the systems keeping all of us trapped is to build something completely different, rather than trying to fix a system that was never meant to help us. That's what Michael Sheen did. He didn't tweak the rules, he just sidestepped them entirely. But we aren't wealthy actors, so we have to do it a little bit differently. We do it by crowdsourcing our skills, our knowledge, our resources. I'm working on creating an online community, a space where we can test, share, and build real solutions together. A place to stop struggling alone and start figuring things out with people who actually get it. Because it won't take one lucky break. It'll take hundreds of us pooling what we have to build the world we need. Okay, now that you have some idea of your basic needs, you can stop wasting energy trying to fix the wrong things, start making choices that actually support you, finally get clear on the kind of fuel your life actually runs on and how to start getting more of it. And maybe most importantly, you begin to see that the life you long for isn't a fantasy. It's just been out of reach because your foundation wasn't there yet. But that changes now. Here's what basic needs looks like in action for me today. So I'm filming this video here at Loch Fiscally in Perthshire, Scotland, near where I live. It's one of my favorite places, in spite of all the traffic, because it reminds me of the US national parks I went to as a kid. I've got a barbecue going, a cup of tea on the go. I'm with my best friend Malcolm, who also happens to be my husband. And I'm talking to you about one of the things I care most about in the world: how to help good people who are struggling overcome all the stuff that's keeping us from doing what we're here to do and have a great time doing it. I've made a conscious effort to structure today this way because with chronic fatigue, I have to make sure I have as many fuel sources, as many of my basic needs met as I can. But I won't pretend this has been easy. Letting go of those old myths about mindset, about hard work, is its own kind of grief. They gave me something to believe in, even if they never really worked. And when I stopped chasing those illusions, I was left with the harder question: what now? For me, the answer was in starting smaller, building my life around good food, real rest, connection to nature, and people I actually like being around. And most of all, in doing work I feel excited about, that finally feels like it matters. I trust there are others who still believe, even in their exhaustion and struggle, that something better is possible. I'd love to know in the comments, which of these basic needs is the hardest for you to meet right now? Is it health, money, loneliness? Because naming what you're struggling with is the first step toward changing it. And if nothing else I say resonates with you, I hope this does. You're not struggling because you're doing something wrong. You're struggling because the world was never designed for us. We aren't made just for survival mode. We're made to build something better. But before you help change the world, you need your basic needs met. And that can start now. See you soon.